Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're doing something pretty fascinating. We're going to analyze your financial behaviors exactly like a Harvard behavioral economist would. Because here is the fundamental truth we so often miss. Money isn't just numbers on a spreadsheet, it's emotion. And until you grasp that core concept, you're never truly going to understand why people become wealthy or why they stay poor. So get ready to look at your bank account through a completely different lens. Let's start with the visceral, universal heartbeat of the modern worker. Think about that exact moment. Tick, 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 and boom, your phone lights up with a notification. Your salary just hit your account. For a brief, shining moment, you feel richer, right? You feel safer. You get this sudden surge of success and security. But then, almost like clockwork, something really strange happens. Where does your salary actually go? I mean, we all experience it. Within days, the money just starts disappearing. First, it's those daily coffees, then the auto-renewing subscriptions you forgot about, a bit of shopping here, a nice restaurant there, maybe you upgrade your phone, another payment hits, another bill, until suddenly that feeling of security totally evaporates and you're right back to counting down the days until your next paycheck. Okay, let's dive into a fascinating anomaly here. Picture two friends. They went to the exact same university, they're the exact same age, and they earn the exact same salary. But fast forward 10 years and look at the massive divergence. One owns businesses, holds investments, and enjoys complete financial freedom. The other, still living paycheck to paycheck, totally stressed out at the end of every month. So what happened? Did one just work harder? Was one just luckier? Well, not exactly. As we analyze this, we'll prove that the real difference between these two isn't math at all, it's psychology. Section 1. The Identity Tax. Imagine handing two people $1,000 right now. The first person immediately takes that $1,000 and invests it. The second person takes that exact same cash and buys the absolute newest smartphone on the market. So, who's right? Most people answer that way too quickly. But thinking like a behavioral economist means realizing that this question isn't actually about the money itself. It's fundamentally about identity. And this brilliantly illustrates what decades of behavioral research have uncovered. Humans don't simply buy products. Recognition, belonging, confidence, status, these are the actual emotional states we're purchasing. I mean, think about the last really expensive thing you bought. Did you buy it because you truly practically needed it? Or did you buy it because it made you feel accepted, respected, or just more confident? The truth is, we are constantly trying to purchase a more successful version of ourselves. There's this secret engine driving the entire global economy. People spend emotionally, and then they justify it logically. Companies understand this deeply. Imagine walking into a high-end luxury car showroom. The bright lights, the soft music, that smell of fresh leather, it's all carefully designed, not just to sell you a vehicle with specific engine specs, but to sell you a luxury lifestyle. Money, in this context, is literally just the bridge between who you currently are and the identity of who you hope to become. Section 2. Invisible Financial Software. Close your eyes for a second and imagine winning $1 million tomorrow. What's the very first thing you'd buy? A sprawling house, a supercar, luxury watches, maybe a trip around the world? But more importantly, ask yourself this. Who taught you that those specific items were the ultimate symbols of success? Was it your parents? Was it movies, your friends, or maybe social media? Well, psychologists actually have a specific term for this: social conditioning. It's the process of quietly absorbing inherited beliefs and invisible rules about money from our environment. Think of it as this invisible software running constantly in the background of our minds, installed long, long before we ever earned our very first paycheck. From a very early age, some of us absorb these deeply limiting beliefs. We hear phrases like, "We can't afford that," over and over again. We're taught that money is incredibly difficult to earn, or we absorb this narrative that rich people are just inherently greedy. And you know what happens? These inherited scripts just become our default operating system. Meanwhile, other children are taught incredibly empowering beliefs. They grow up hearing things like money creates freedom. They learn entirely different scripts, which clearly demonstrates that the greatest financial prison a person can be trapped in often has absolutely no walls, because that prison exists entirely inside our own thinking and the rules we never even consciously chose to follow. Our financial beliefs work exactly like this. Imagine two identical seeds. One is planted in rich, fertile soil, and the other is dropped right into a crack in solid concrete. Now, the seed in the concrete isn't inherently weaker, right? But the environment it's forced to grow in is drastically different. The inherited stories and beliefs we receive totally shape the financial lives we eventually build, just like that soil. Section 3, the cost of fear. If we really want to analyze money like a Harvard economist, we have to look at the ultimate wealth-destroying variable, fear. No single emotion has destroyed more wealth throughout history. Not massive market crashes, not skyrocketing inflation, and not even global recessions. Imagine the stock market suddenly takes a dive. The headlines explode with markets crash and billions lost. Millions of people rush in an absolute panic to sell off their assets. But they don't sell because the underlying businesses suddenly vanished. They sell because fear became exponentially louder than logic. This is driven by what behavioral finance researchers call loss aversion. It's this crazy phenomenon where people actually feel the psychological pain of losing money way more intensely than they feel the satisfaction of making that exact same amount. This intense emotional response heavily influences our decisions during any period of uncertainty, basically causing us to abandon our long-term strategies. And the same emotional paralysis appears absolutely everywhere in our lives, not just in the stock market. Just look at how fear divides our potential. People delay starting that business they've been dreaming about for years. They completely avoid learning new, valuable skills, or they never even begin investing in the first place. They convince themselves they simply aren't ready for new opportunities, not because they lack the ability, but because fear has completely taken the wheel. Which brings us to a vital question. What is the invisible cost of all this? The true cost of fear is completely invisible on a balance sheet because it isn't measured by what we actively lose in the market. It's measured by the tremendous opportunities, the businesses, and the investments that we never even attempt to pursue. Conclusion: the next psychological forces. To wrap up this explainer, we've taken a hard look at the psychology of money. We've discovered that wealth is heavily governed by our emotions, our childhood beliefs, and our fear. But honestly, these elements are really just the beginning of the story. In part 2, we're going to uncover why comparison quietly destroys wealth, the hidden trap of lifestyle inflation, the real relationship between happiness and money, and the timeless habits of successful long-term investors. Until we meet again for part 2, I want you to take a moment today to step back, look at your own life, analyze your daily financial behaviors just like that Harvard behavioral economist would, and ask yourself this one crucial, deeply revealing question. What invisible rule is secretly controlling your wallet right now?